Today's review is sponsored by I Can't Believe It's Not Buddha, now with 50% less carbs and 50% more enlightenment.
Watch it, Alan, I'm shooting.
House on the Edge of the Park.
Trying to play the hero, huh? Well, heroes die young.
David Hess, one of the most underappreciated actors in the horror genre. At least underappreciated outside of the horror genre. Those of us who are fans of horror and grindhouse movies, we love this guy, and we recognize him as one of the scariest horror villains out there. We all know him as Krug from Last House on the Left, this sadistic criminal who takes pleasure in torture, sexual assault, and outright humiliating his victims before he kills them.
I want you to take the gun, and I want you to put it in your mouth. And I want you to blow your brains out. No! Blow your brains out! Blow your...
Last House on the Left was Wes Craven's first movie, and a major game-changer in the horror genre. It was very disturbing for 1972, and still pretty messed up for today. Last House on the Left is a rape revenge movie, and probably one of the most notorious movies in the genre. However, it wasn't the first movie in the rape revenge genre. However, it was the movie that jump-started the genre in the 1970s and the 1980s. And it wasn't long before Italy started trying its hand in this disturbing genre.
Little Miss Muffet sat on a tub, trying to call the police. No. Along came a spider and sat down beside her and scared the living shit out of her.
The Italian film industry at the time insisted that directors make movies that were like popular American movies, which resulted in many Italian rip-offs of American films. It was no different for Last House on the Left. There was Night Train Murders, aka Last Stop on the Night Train, which was made to directly cash in on Last House on the Left. It was even known as The Last Train on the Left. But I think the best is House on the Edge of the Park, starring David Hess from Last House on the Left, and directed by Ruggero Deodato, the director of Cannibal Holocaust. So you know you're in for a fun family film here.
Lesson time.
House on the Edge of the Park is pretty much if you took Last House on the Left and made it even more depressing and sleazier. The movie follows Alex, played by David Hess, and his buddy Ricky, played by Giovanni Lombardo Radice. The very first thing we see in this movie is Alex stalking a young woman who he proceeds to rape and strangle to death.
Hello, lady. Hey, do you remember me? At the discotheque.
What do you want?
I want to say hello to you, that's all.
What in the hell do you want from...
Now, don't make any noise.
Right off the bat, we're shown what we're getting into. This is going to be a rough movie that does not give a shit about what it's going to put you through. Anyway, we flash forward to Alex and Ricky hanging out in the garage they work at. As they're closing up, a young couple pulls in, wanting their car fixed. Of course, Alex wants to go out boogieing.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you my do-it-yourself handbook, and you can fix the car while I go boogieing.
Ricky fixes the car, so the couple invites the two friends to a get-together with some of their rich friends, in the house on the edge of the park. These two are clearly out of their element. It's made pretty obvious that the sole reason Alex and Ricky were invited to this party was that so the rich kids could make fun of them and laugh at them behind their backs.
Just look at the way they're dressed and the way they move. What a great idea to bring them along. Tremendous. Anything to stop our boredom.
As the evening goes on, Alex gets wise to what's going on here. So he starts beating up these rich kids. He beats up the men and starts sexually assaulting the women. It gets very, very bad. In a way that you want a disturbing movie to be. This is a good movie. It's just disturbing.
Now! Have you made up your mind? Answer me!
So, yes, this is one of those movies that is obviously not made for everybody. It's a disturbing watch. It has elements of sexual assault, and it's not a gory movie, but it is violent. It's raw, unapologetic violence. Saying that this is a sleazier Last House on the Left is probably the most accurate description of this movie. In Last House on the Left, there are clear good guys and clear bad guys. That's not so much the case with House on the Edge of the Park. Now, I usually complain when the main characters in movies are unlikable assholes, but that can be done right if you do it in an interesting way. House on the Edge of the Park is a movie that forces you to root for the lesser of two evils.
Shall we finish the round?
Howard!
Shut up!
Get hold of yourself, Howard.
You have these rich, pompous jerk-offs who invited Alex and Ricky to their party with the sole purpose of making fun of them. They want to laugh at them and look down on them. You can tell these people look down on the working class. So, when Alex flips out and starts beating the shit out of these people, you can't help but smile a little. But then you feel wrong for smiling because we know that Alex is a sick bastard. And he just gets more violent as the movie goes on. He starts violating the women, and we saw him rape and murder a woman at the beginning of the movie. We're constantly reminded of this opening act through a clever detail. Alex stole a necklace from the woman at the beginning of the film, and he's wearing it the entire time in the movie. So we see the necklace, and we're reminded of what Alex really is. But the dynamic between villain and victim is weird. One of the women actually starts getting excited by this situation. It's weird and uncomfortable. And that's kind of the point of this movie. It puts you in this uncomfortable situation and forces you to stew in it.
You can always say 2 cold-blooded killers forced you to do it. 2 sex maniacs.
It goes even further when this young woman, who's completely innocent, shows up at the house, and Alex does some very bad things to her. Alex is such a good villain, of course, because he's played by David Hess. David Hess did this great job at playing these really scary characters. He did a great job as Krug in Last House on the Left.
Now, I'm gonna tell this little lady here to do something. And if she doesn't do exactly what I tell her to, I want you to cut her, I want you to cut her friend.
Wow!
He became notorious for playing these intense sexual deviants, which I think is a shame. Not because these are bad performances, they're not. He did great in all these roles, but I just wish more people recognized him for these scary performances. He does a great job in these roles. These characters are some of the most intense villains in horror. They're just sadists. Krug is a sadist. Alex is a sadist. But David Hess was able to play these roles with a twisted charisma. We hate these characters because they are despicable people, but we can't take our eyes off them.
There's one thing you should understand, that Alex does what he wants. And nobody, but nobody, you get me? I mean nobody, gets in his way!
The most interesting part of the movie for me is the relationship between Alex and Ricky. Ricky is a slow person. He's not mentally stable and he doesn't have the level of maturity that other people have.
That's enough. What's for? Because you're making an asshole.
Oh, I'm not. We're just having fun. Don't treat me like that, Alex. I don't like it.
Let him be. He's enjoying himself.
When Alex first starts beating up these rich kids, Ricky's all for it. He was the butt of the joke at the party, so he's okay with seeing these people get knocked around. But as soon as Alex starts getting more intense and violating people, Ricky wants it to stop. But he doesn't say anything because Alex is clearly the dominant one in this friendship.
She's afraid, can't you see? I don't like to do it this way. I don't like it. It's nice.
House on the Edge of the Park is a home invasion movie, but for me, it's a movie about a toxic friendship. I doubt that's what Ruggero Deodato was going for when making this flick, but that's what it comes across as. We have so many movies about toxic relationships between people who are romantically involved, but here's one about a toxic friendship.
I know. But don't worry. That's why I'm here. I'm your friend. Mwah. And you don't have to scream at me.
A lot of people have dealt with that. Not everybody, but there are people who have experienced that. You've been friends with someone for years. You grew up with them. They've always been there for you. But as you get older, they aren't really growing up. They're doing questionable things, but you stick with them because of your history. But it does eventually get to the point where you have to cut them off, either because they're not doing anything to better their lives, or they end up screwing you over. Alex is the ultimate version of that. This is an abusive friendship.
Do it.
You can tell he's stood up for Ricky many times. Hell, he stands up for Ricky against these rich pricks.
You don't want to get even? I mean, they make an asshole out of you while you dance, and they get off on it. She does it, now you get me, now you don't in the shower.
But he takes it too far. It has all the characteristics of an abusive relationship, but it's with two friends instead of a couple.
They're all fucking bastards! All of them! They did this to you! They're trying to turn us against each other!
Again, I don't think that's what Ruggero Deodato was intending when making this movie. He wanted to make something that was shocking and sleazy. But he did end up making a movie about a toxic friendship. In many ways, House on the Edge of the Park is even more disturbing than Last House on the Left. It doesn't have the comedic moments, and Alex, in some ways, is more sadistic than Krug. But that doesn't matter because they're played by the same guy. It's not a movie I can recommend to everyone. This is a rough sit. You have to be someone that likes disturbing movies. But if you do like disturbing movies and you want a depressing evening, I say check this one out. And with that, let's get to the Grindhouse rankings. There's only a body count of 2 in this movie, but the kills aren't really what this film's about. I can't give any more details because that would spoil things. There's a lot of nudity in this flick, mostly female. We see a lot of full frontal naked ladies here, but we do have some naked man butts. Alex is a great scumbag. David Hess does a great job at playing villains you hate, but you still want to watch. He's both charismatic and disgusting. Ricky is an interesting character. He's doing bad things, but you can tell that he doesn't want to do them. His and Alex's relationship is the most interesting part of the movie. This is a disturbing flick. Not gory, but still hard to watch. There is a lot of focus on sexual assault, so keep that in mind. I find it interesting that the movie forces you to choose between the lesser of two evils. There's no good guy here, just people who are not as bad as others. It's a very sleazy movie. There's no real message here, it's just trying to be shocking, but it does a very good job at being shocking. and I think it unintentionally makes a good movie about a toxic friendship. I'm giving this a 4.4 out of 5. It's just a disturbing horror movie that will stick with you, but I only recommend it to people who like disturbing cinema. As always, I want to thank everyone for watching and supporting my channel. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know your favorite home invasion movie. And for my fellow David Hess fans out there, let me know your favorite David Hess performance. This is the Maniac, here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die. Since this was a disturbing, depressing movie, I think we need to end this video with some happy dogs.